Maya Rodriguez had always been the odd one out in the Hernandez family. Not because she was adopted. Everyone knew the story of how her teenage mother had asked her older sister Carmen to raise the baby, but because she never quite fit the mold that the rest of the family seemed to slip into so effortlessly. While her cousins were all variations of the same theme, athletic, outgoing, conventionally attractive, Maya was quiet, artistic, and what her Aunt Carmen diplomatically called quirky. The family photo incident happened during Maya's senior year of high school at her cousin Isabella's quinceañera. The photographer was arranging the extended family for the traditional group shot when Maya stepped forward to join them. She'd spent hours getting ready, carefully styling her curly hair and wearing the one dress she owned that wasn't black, hoping to finally look like she belonged. "Maya, honey, maybe you should sit this one out," her Aunt Carmen said with that practiced smile she used when she wanted to be cruel while maintaining plausible deniability. "This is really for the immediate family, and we want it to look cohesive." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She watched as her cousins, Isabella, Diego, and Sofia, shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Her uncle Roberto nodded in agreement, not even looking at her. "Yeah, we want it to look professional. Maybe you can take some candid shots of us instead?" Maya stood there for a moment, feeling the familiar burn of rejection in her chest. She was 17 years old, had lived with this family for most of her life, and yet she was still considered an outsider. Too weird, too different, too much of a reminder that they were doing her a favor by keeping her around. "Of course," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll grab some food." As she walked away, Maya heard the photographer start arranging the family, her cousins laughing and joking as they posed for what would become the centerpiece of Isabella's quinceañera album. She spent the rest of the evening in the corner, watching everyone else dance and celebrate, counting the minutes until she could escape to her room. That night, Maya stared at her reflection in her bedroom mirror, the same mirror that had been Isabella's before she moved out, and made a decision. She was tired of trying to fit into a family that would never accept her. She was tired of shrinking herself to make others comfortable. Most of all, she was tired of believing that their rejection meant she was fundamentally flawed. The next morning, Maya walked into her high school's media center and signed up for every creative program they offered. Photography, video production, graphic design, web development, anything that would give her skills and keep her away from home. She also started a blog called Misfits Guide to Everything, where she wrote about being different in a world that demanded conformity. Her first post was titled, "Why I'm Not in My Family's Photo, and Why That's Okay." She wrote about feeling like an outsider, about the pain of exclusion, and about the decision to stop seeking validation from people who would never give it. The post resonated with thousands of teenagers who felt the same way, and within a week, her blog had more followers than she'd ever imagined possible. Maya's teachers noticed her newfound focus and drive. Mrs. Patterson, her English teacher, encouraged her to enter writing contests. Mr. Kim, who taught video production, was impressed by her natural eye for composition and storytelling. Even the school's career counselor, Ms. Lopez, took notice when Maya's blog started getting attention from local media outlets. "Maya, I've never seen a student transform like this," Ms. Lopez said during a meeting in the spring. "Your portfolio is exceptional, and your blog is generating real buzz. Have you thought about what you want to do after graduation?" Maya had thought about it constantly. She wanted to create content that made people feel less alone, that celebrated the beauty in being different. She wanted to build something that was entirely her own, something that no one could take away from her or exclude her from. "I want to study digital media and marketing," Maya said. "I want to turn my blog into something bigger. Maybe start a YouTube channel, work with brands that celebrate individuality instead of conformity." The transition wasn't easy. Maya's family was skeptical of her sudden focus on what they saw as, quote, computer stuff. Her Aunt Carmen made pointed comments about Maya spending too much time online and not enough time with family, seemingly oblivious to the irony of her complaints. "Maya, you're always on that laptop," Carmen said during one of their weekly family dinners. "When I was your age, we talked to each other face to face. We valued family." "I do value family," Maya replied, looking around the table at her cousins, who were all staring at their phones. "I just think family should be about more than just DNA or proximity." The comment earned her a sharp look from her uncle, but Maya no longer cared about their disapproval. She had found her voice, and she was going to use it. College was a revelation. Maya received a partial scholarship to study digital media at a state university 3 hours away from home. For the first time in her life, she was surrounded by people who appreciated creativity, who celebrated weird ideas, who understood that being different was actually an asset. Her blog continued to grow throughout her freshman year, and she started her YouTube channel, Maya's Misfit Moments, where she talked about everything from dealing with toxic family dynamics to finding your personal style when you don't fit conventional beauty standards. Her raw honesty and quirky humor attracted viewers who felt like outsiders in their own lives. The breakthrough came during her sophomore year when a video she made about surviving family gatherings as the black sheep went viral. The video featured Maya giving advice while doing her makeup in her tiny dorm room, talking about how to maintain your sense of self when surrounded by people who want to change you. "Remember," she said, applying mascara with the confidence of someone who had finally learned to love her own reflection, "you are not responsible for making other people comfortable with your existence. You are responsible for being authentically yourself." The video got 2 million views in its first week and attracted the attention of several major brands. Suddenly, Maya was fielding calls from marketing agencies and sponsorship offers from companies that wanted to associate with her message of self-acceptance and authenticity. By her junior year, Maya had transformed her blog and YouTube channel into a full-fledged media company. She had a team of 3 other students helping her create content, and she was earning more money than her uncle made at his construction job. She used her platform to highlight other misfits, young people who were changing the world precisely because they refused to conform. The first sign that her family's attitude toward her was changing came during Christmas break of her junior year. Maya had been featured in a local magazine as one of the region's, quote, 30 under 30 inches young entrepreneurs, and suddenly her Aunt Carmen was showing the article to everyone who would listen. "Maya's always been so creative," Carmen told their neighbor, as if she hadn't spent years trying to discourage Maya's artistic interests. "We always knew she'd do something special." Maya watched this performance with a mixture of amusement and disgust. The same aunt who had excluded her from family photos was now taking credit for her success. But Maya had learned to pick her battles, and she was more interested in building her future than rehashing old hurts. The real test came when Isabella got engaged and started planning her wedding. Maya had been bracing herself for another exclusion, another reminder that she wasn't quite family enough for the important moments. Instead, she received a call from Isabella that left her speechless. "Maya, I wanted to ask you something," Isabella said, her voice unusually hesitant. "I know we haven't always been close, but I've been watching your videos and following your blog. You've become this incredible person, and I'm really proud of you." Maya waited, unsure where this was going. "I was wondering if you'd be willing to help with my wedding social media. You know, create content, maybe do some behind-the-scenes videos? I know you're probably really busy, but I'd love to have you involved." The irony wasn't lost on Maya. The same cousin who had stood silently while Maya was excluded from the quinceañera photo now wanted her creative skills for the biggest event of her life. "Isabella, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not really a wedding videographer. My brand is about—" I know, Isabella interrupted. "But Maya, you make everything look so cool and authentic. I've seen how you make people feel comfortable and confident. That's what I want for my wedding." Maya agreed to help, partly out of curiosity, and partly because she genuinely wanted to support her cousin. The wedding planning process revealed just how much the family dynamics had shifted. Suddenly, Maya's opinion was sought on everything from color schemes to music choices. Her uncle Roberto, who had barely acknowledged her existence for years, started asking her advice about marketing his construction business. "Maya, you understand this internet stuff," he said one evening while she was home working on Isabella's wedding content. "Maybe you could help me get more customers?" The wedding itself was a masterclass in irony. Maya arrived with professional camera equipment and a clear vision for the content she wanted to create. She moved through the event like the professional she had become, directing shots and creating social media moments that would generate thousands of likes and shares. When it came time for the family photos, The photographer, a different one from the quinceañera, naturally included Maya in every shot. She was no longer the awkward teenager who didn't fit the family aesthetic. She was a successful young woman with her own brand and platform, and her presence elevated everyone around her. "Maya, can you post that photo of us on your Instagram?" Sophia asked after the ceremony. "Your followers would love to see it." Maya looked at her cousin, the same one who had said nothing when she was excluded from the quinceañera photo, and felt a complex mix of emotions. Part of her wanted to refuse, to point out the hypocrisy of suddenly wanting to be associated with her success. But another part of her recognized the opportunity to demonstrate grace and growth. "Of course," Maya said, already knowing that the photo would get thousands of likes and comments about how beautiful and happy the family looked. The months following Isabella's wedding marked a turning point in Maya's relationship with her family. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be included in her content. Her cousins started asking to appear in her videos. Her Aunt Carmen began commenting on every single one of her Instagram posts. Her uncle Roberto commissioned her to create a social media strategy for his business. But the most surreal moment came 6 months later when Aunt Carmen suggested they recreate the quinceañera photo that had excluded Maya. "Wouldn't it be fun to do a then and now comparison?" Carmen asked during a family dinner, seemingly oblivious to the painful irony of her suggestion. "We could post it on your Instagram. Your followers would love to see how much everyone has grown." Maya stared at her aunt, remembering the 17-year-old girl who had been deemed too uncohesive for the family photo. Now that same girl was being asked to recreate the moment for content, to turn her old pain into social media engagement. "I don't think that's a good idea," Maya said quietly. "But Maya, it would be such great content," Sophia chimed in. "You could write one of those inspirational posts about family growth and forgiveness." The assumption that Maya would want to monetize her trauma for their benefit was breathtaking. They still didn't understand that her success wasn't about getting revenge or proving them wrong. It was about building something authentic and meaningful that helped other people feel less alone. Maya's real breakthrough came when she was invited to speak at a major social media conference in Los Angeles. The topic was building authentic community in the digital age, and Maya's presentation about creating content that celebrated rather than exploited difference received a standing ovation. The video of her speech went viral, and suddenly Maya was being featured in major publications and invited to appear on national television shows. Her platform had grown beyond her wildest dreams, and brands were offering her 6-figure deals to promote their products. But success brought new challenges. Every family gathering became an opportunity for relatives to pitch themselves as potential content collaborators. Her cousins started introducing themselves as Maya's family at social events. Her Aunt Carmen began telling anyone who would listen about how she had always supported Maya's creativity. The situation reached a breaking point during Maya's college graduation party. She had invited her family to celebrate her achievement, but the event quickly devolved into a networking session where everyone tried to position themselves in Maya's content. "Maya, can we get a selfie?" asked a cousin she barely knew. "I want to show my friends that we're related." "Maya, you should do a video about our family recipes," suggested another relative. "I could teach you how to make abuela's tamales." "Maya, I have this idea for a collaboration," started her uncle Roberto. "We could do a series about family businesses and—" "Stop," Maya said, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Everyone just stop." The room fell silent. Maya looked around at her family, these people who had made her feel like an outsider for most of her life, but now wanted to bask in her success. "I love you all," Maya said, her voice steady but firm. "But I need you to understand something. My success didn't happen because of this family. It happened despite this family. I built my platform by being authentic about feeling like an outsider, about not fitting in, about being rejected by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally." Her Aunt Carmen looked stricken. "Maya, we've always loved you. We've always been proud of you." "No, you haven't," Maya replied. "You've been proud of what I've accomplished, but you were ashamed of who I was. There's a difference." The confrontation was uncomfortable but necessary. Maya had spent years building her confidence and her platform, and she wasn't going to let anyone, not even family, exploit that success for their own benefit. In the weeks that followed, Maya made some difficult decisions about boundaries. She stopped automatically including family members in her content. She declined requests for collaborations that felt inauthentic. She focused on creating content that served her audience rather than her relatives' social media ambitions. Some family members were understanding. Isabella, who had grown through her own experiences with social media attention, reached out to apologize for the way Maya had been treated growing up. "I was young and stupid," Isabella said during a private conversation. "I should have stood up for you during the quinceañera photo. I should have recognized how talented and special you were." Others were less gracious. Her Aunt Carmen complained to other relatives that Maya had quote 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 odd quote quote and quote 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 odd quote 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 quote. "Maybe," Maya told her friend and business partner Jessica, "but I'm not forgetting where I'm going." Maya's platform continued to grow, but she became more selective about how she used it. She started a scholarship fund for young people who felt like outsiders in their own families. She partnered with mental health organizations to create content about dealing with rejection and building self-worth. She used her success to lift up other misfits who were creating positive change in the world. The ultimate vindication came 2 years later when Maya was invited to give the keynote address at a major conference on digital entrepreneurship. The speech was titled "The Power of Authenticity in an Inauthentic World," and it drew on her experiences of being excluded and finding her voice. "I used to think that success meant proving wrong the people who rejected me," Maya told the audience of thousands. "But I've learned that real success means building something so authentic and meaningful that their opinion becomes irrelevant." The speech was covered by major media outlets, and Maya found herself fielding interview requests from national magazines and television shows. She was featured on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine as one of the young innovators changing the game. When the magazine hit newsstands, Maya's phone exploded with messages from family members who wanted to celebrate her success. Her Aunt Carmen posted the cover photo on Facebook with a long caption about how proud she was of her Maya. Her cousins shared the article on their social media accounts, basking in the reflected glory of their famous relative. But the message that meant the most came from an unexpected source, her biological mother, who had been following Maya's career from a distance. "Maya," the email read, "I've been watching your journey and I'm so proud of the woman you've become. I know I gave up my right to be part of your life, but I want you to know that you've accomplished something extraordinary. You've turned your pain into purpose, and you've helped so many people feel less alone. That's the most beautiful thing anyone can do." Maya read the email multiple times, tears streaming down her face. This was the validation she had been seeking all her life, not from the family who had rejected her, but from understanding that her experiences, even the painful ones, had given her the ability to help others. The response to Maya's Entrepreneur magazine feature was overwhelming. Her Instagram gained 500,000 followers in a single week. Brands were offering her unprecedented partnerships. Speaking bureaus were booking her for events around the world. But the most meaningful response came from her audience, the misfits, the outcasts, the people who felt like they didn't belong. They shared their own stories of rejection and resilience, thanking Maya for showing them that being different was not a liability, but a superpower. "Your story helped me realize that I don't need my family's approval to be successful," wrote one follower. "I've been trying to fit in for so long that I forgot who I actually am. I used to hate family gatherings because I felt so out of place," shared another. "Now I realize that my perspective is valuable precisely because it's different." Maya's success had created a ripple effect, inspiring thousands of people to embrace their authentic selves and build their own paths to success. She had transformed from someone who was excluded from family photos to someone who was helping others create their own definitions of belonging. The latest chapter in Maya's story began when she was approached by a major streaming platform to create a documentary series about young people who had overcome family rejection to achieve success. The project, titled Misfit to Mainstream, would feature Maya's story alongside those of other entrepreneurs, artists, and activists who had turned their outsider status into their greatest strength. "We want to show that being different isn't a disadvantage," the producer explained. "It's often the key to innovation and authentic success. Maya agreed to participate, seeing it as an opportunity to reach an even broader audience with her message of self-acceptance and resilience. The documentary would premiere next year, cementing her status as a thought leader in the space of authenticity and entrepreneurship. As Maya prepared for the documentary interviews, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought about that 17-year-old girl who had been deemed too uncohesive for a family photo, and she felt a deep sense of pride in how far she had come. Now at 25, Maya was regularly featured in major publications, sought after by brands and media outlets, and followed by millions of people who valued her authenticity and insight. The girl who had been excluded from one family photo was now the subject of professional photo shoots, magazine covers, and documentary features. But more importantly, Maya had built something that no one could take away from her, a platform that celebrated individuality, a community that valued authenticity, and a message that helped people find strength in their differences. Her phone buzzed with a text from her cousin Isabella. "Maya, I saw the announcement about your documentary. We're all so proud of you. Can we plan a family viewing party? I'd love to get everyone together to celebrate." Maya smiled as she read the message. The irony was perfect. The same family that had excluded her from their photos now wanted to gather around her success. But Maya had learned something important about forgiveness and boundaries. She could appreciate their support without needing their validation. "Thanks, Isabella," she typed back. "I appreciate the support. Let's plan something low-key." She had learned that true success wasn't about proving wrong the people who had rejected her. It was about building something so authentic and meaningful that their opinion became irrelevant. The girl who had been deemed too different for family photos had become someone that everyone wanted to be associated with, not because she had changed to fit their expectations, but because she had stayed true to herself until the world changed to appreciate her authenticity. Maya Rodriguez had transformed from an excluded teenager to a successful entrepreneur, but more importantly, she had become someone who helped others find their own paths to belonging. She had taken the pain of rejection and turned it into a platform for acceptance, creating a space where being different was not just tolerated but celebrated. As she looked toward the future, Maya knew that the best was yet to come. She had found her voice, built her platform, and created a community of people who valued authenticity over conformity. The girl who had been left out of family photos had become someone that millions of people wanted to follow, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. In the end, Maya's greatest achievement wasn't the money she had made or the fame she had gained. It was the knowledge that she had turned her deepest pain into her greatest strength, and in doing so, she had helped countless others do the same. The misfit had become the mainstream, not by changing who she was, but by showing the world that being different was actually the key to making a difference. The family that had once excluded her from their photos now competed for space in her selfies. But Maya had learned that the only approval that truly mattered was her own, and that was something no one could ever take away from her. The premiere of Misfit to Mainstream was held at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood, a venue that Maya had only ever seen in movies. As she walked the red carpet in a custom dress designed by an up-and-coming designer she had featured on her channel, Maya felt surreal about how far her life had traveled from that quinceañera rejection. "Maya, Maya, over here!" Photographers shouted her name as she posed for pictures, flanked by the other subjects of the documentary series. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was now the one everyone wanted to photograph, the one whose image would be splashed across entertainment websites and social media feeds worldwide. Her family had flown out for the premiere, and Maya had arranged for them to attend as her guests. Watching her Aunt Carmen navigate the red carpet with obvious excitement was both amusing and somewhat touching. Carmen had spent the entire flight telling anyone who would listen that Maya was her girl, and that she had always known she was special. "Maya, this is incredible," Isabella whispered as they settled into their seats in the theater. "I can't believe my cousin is the star of a Netflix documentary." "I'm not the star," Maya replied, though she appreciated the sentiment. "I'm just one of the stories." But as the documentary began, it became clear that Maya's segment was the emotional centerpiece of the series. The filmmakers had crafted a compelling narrative about transformation, showing her journey from excluded teenager to successful entrepreneur with a level of intimacy that surprised even Maya herself. The most powerful moment came when the documentary showed old family photos from various gatherings, including the quinceañera photo that had excluded Maya. The filmmakers had interviewed several family members, and Carmen's attempts to rewrite history were particularly cringeworthy. "We've always been so proud of Maya," Carmen said on screen. "She's always been the creative one in the family. We knew she was destined for great things." The documentary then cut to Maya's own reflection on that moment. "I spent so many years believing that if I just tried harder, if I just fit in better, they would accept me. But the truth is, their rejection taught me something valuable. It taught me that seeking approval from people who don't understand your value is a waste of time. Better to build your own table than beg for a seat at theirs." The audience's reaction was immediate and powerful. Maya could hear sniffles throughout the theater, and when the lights came up, she received a standing ovation. Her family members looked simultaneously proud and uncomfortable, perhaps recognizing themselves in the story in ways they hadn't expected. The documentary's release the following week was a cultural phenomenon. It sparked conversations about family dynamics, authenticity, and the power of turning pain into purpose. Maya's social media following exploded to over 15 million across all platforms, and brands were lining up to work with her. But the most meaningful response came from viewers who saw themselves in Maya's story. Her inbox was flooded with messages from people who had experienced similar rejection and found hope in her journey. "I watched your documentary with my family," wrote one viewer. "My mom cried and apologized for not understanding me when I was younger. I never thought I'd have that conversation with her. Your story made me realize that I don't need to shrink myself to make others comfortable," shared another. "I'm starting my own business and following my dreams instead of the path my family wanted for me." The documentary's success led to opportunities Maya had never imagined. She was invited to speak at major conferences, appeared on late-night talk shows, and was offered a book deal by a major publishing house. But she was also careful to maintain the authenticity that had made her successful in the first place. "I don't want to become so famous that I lose touch with the people who made me who I am," she told her business partner Jessica during a strategy meeting. "The message is more important than the messenger." This philosophy guided Maya's decisions as she navigated her newfound fame. She turned down reality TV shows that would have paid millions but compromised her message. She refused partnerships with brands that didn't align with her values. She was selective about media appearances, choosing platforms that would allow her to share her story authentically rather than sensationalizing it. The success of the documentary also brought unexpected challenges. Maya found herself dealing with internet trolls who questioned her motives and criticized her for exploiting her family story. Some accused her of being ungrateful to the family that had raised her. Others suggested that her success was undeserved, that she was just lucky to have gone viral. "The hate is part of the process," Maya told her therapist during one of their sessions. "When you put yourself out there authentically, some people will always try to tear you down. But I've learned that the people who criticize you for being authentic are usually the ones who are too afraid to be authentic themselves." Maya's response to criticism was to double down on her message of self-acceptance and resilience. She created a video series called Thick Skin Thursdays, where she addressed common forms of online harassment and showed her audience how to maintain their confidence in the face of negativity. "Remember," she said in one particularly powerful episode, "you are not responsible for other people's projections. Their criticism says more about them than it does about you. Keep being authentic, keep creating value, and keep believing in yourself." The series resonated with millions of viewers who were struggling with their own confidence issues. Maya's ability to turn her own challenges into teachable moments reinforced her reputation as someone who practiced what she preached. As her platform grew, Maya began to think about ways to create lasting impact beyond social media. She established the Misfit Foundation, a nonprofit organization that provided scholarships and mentorship to young people who felt like outsiders in their own families or communities. "I want to create the support system that I wish I had when I was 17, Maya explained during the foundation's launch event. "Too many young people are suffering in silence because they don't fit conventional expectations. We want to show them that being different is not a liability, it's a superpower." The foundation's first initiative was a series of workshops held in schools across the country, teaching students about authenticity, resilience, and self-acceptance. Maya personally led many of these workshops, sharing her story and helping young people develop their own confidence. "The most rewarding part of my success isn't the money or the fame," Maya told a group of high school students in Chicago. "It's meeting young people like you, who are brave enough to be themselves in a world that often punishes authenticity. You are the future, and you're going to change the world by being exactly who you are." The foundation's work attracted attention from major donors and corporate partners. Within its first year, the organization had awarded 50 scholarships and reached over 10,000 students through its programming. Maya's vision of creating systemic change was becoming a reality. But success also brought personal challenges. Maya found herself struggling with the pressure of being seen as a role model and the weight of representing everyone who had ever felt like an outsider. She dealt with anxiety about living up to expectations and the fear that her success might be temporary. "I sometimes feel like I'm carrying the hopes and dreams of everyone who has ever felt rejected," she confided to her therapist. "It's an honor, but it's also overwhelming. What if I make mistakes? What if I let people down?" Her therapist helped her recognize that perfection was not the goal, authenticity was. Maya learned to be open about her struggles with anxiety and the challenges of sudden fame, which only endeared her more to her audience. "I'm not perfect," she said in a vulnerable Instagram post that received millions of likes. "I have days when I doubt myself, when I feel overwhelmed, when I wonder if I'm doing enough. But I've learned that authenticity includes the messy parts too. We don't have to be perfect to be valuable." The post sparked a broader conversation about mental health and the pressure on social media influencers to maintain a perfect image. Maya's willingness to be vulnerable about her struggles helped normalize conversations about anxiety and self-doubt. As Maya's influence grew, she began to attract attention from unexpected quarters. She was invited to speak at Fortune 500 companies about authenticity in leadership. She consulted with brands about how to connect with younger consumers who valued genuine connection over polished marketing. "Maya represents something that traditional advertising has lost," explained Sarah Kim, a marketing executive who had worked with Maya on several campaigns. "She's built trust with her audience by being consistently authentic. When she endorses something, people believe it's genuine because she's never compromised her values for money." This reputation for authenticity made Maya one of the most sought-after influencers in the industry. But she was careful to maintain the boundaries she had established, working only with brands that aligned with her message and values. The 2-year anniversary of the documentary's release was marked by a major milestone. Maya's book, The Misfit Advantage: How Being Different Makes You Successful, debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. The book expanded on the themes from her documentary and social media content, providing a roadmap for anyone who felt like an outsider. "This book is for everyone who has ever been told they don't belong," Maya wrote in the introduction. "It's for the weird kids, the creative ones, the ones who see the world differently. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are exactly what the world needs." The book tour took Maya to cities across the country, where she met thousands of readers who had been inspired by her story. At each event, she encountered people who had found the courage to pursue their dreams, stand up to bullies, or simply be themselves more authentically. "Your story changed my life," a young woman told Maya during a book signing in Denver. "I was trying so hard to fit in with my sorority sisters that I lost myself completely. Reading your book helped me realize that I don't need their approval to be happy." These interactions reminded Maya why she had started her journey in the first place. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about helping people feel less alone in their struggles and more confident in their authenticity. The success of Maya's book led to even more opportunities. She was invited to give a TED Talk about authenticity and belonging, which became one of the most watched talks of the year. She launched a podcast called Misfit Conversations, where she interviewed other successful people who had overcome rejection and exclusion. But perhaps the most significant development was Maya's decision to expand her media company. She hired a team of producers and writers to create content that celebrated individuality and authenticity. The company, called Misfit Media, produced everything from YouTube shows to branded content for major corporations. "We want to change the narrative about what success looks like," Maya explained to her investors. "Too much media celebrates conformity and perfectionism. We want to show that the most interesting, innovative, and successful people are often the ones who were told they didn't fit in." Misfit Media's first major project was a reality show called The Authenticity Project, where participants worked with Maya to overcome their people-pleasing tendencies and embrace their true selves. The show was picked up by a major streaming platform and became a cultural phenomenon. As Maya's business empire grew, so did her influence on popular culture. She was featured on magazine covers, invited to fashion weeks, and courted by politicians who wanted to associate with her message of authenticity and inclusion. But Maya remained grounded by her mission and her memories of feeling excluded. She never forgot the 17-year-old girl who had been deemed too uncohesive for a family photo, and she used that memory to fuel her continued advocacy for outsiders and misfits. The ultimate vindication came 5 years after the documentary's release, when Maya was invited to deliver the commencement address at her alma mater. Standing before thousands of graduates and their families, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. "5 years ago, I was a student sitting where you are now," she told the audience. "I was someone who had been told I didn't belong, who had been excluded from family photos, who had been made to feel like being different was a liability. Today, I stand before you as living proof that your differences are not weaknesses. They are your greatest strengths." As Maya looked out at the sea of faces in the audience, she noticed her family in the VIP section. Her Aunt Carmen was crying, and her cousins were recording the speech on their phones. But Maya also saw something else in their faces: genuine pride and recognition of what she had accomplished. "To the misfits in the audience," Maya continued, "to those who feel like they don't belong, to those who have been told they're too weird, too different, too much, I want you to know that the world needs exactly what you have to offer. Don't change to fit in, change the world by being authentically yourself." The standing ovation that followed was deafening. Maya had come full circle, from the girl who was excluded from family photos to the woman everyone wanted to be associated with. But more importantly, she had used her platform to help millions of people find their own paths to self-acceptance and success. As she walked off the stage, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her cousin Isabella. "Maya, I am so proud to be your family. Thank you for showing all of us what it means to be authentic." Maya smiled as she read the message. The journey had been long and sometimes painful, but it had led her to exactly where she needed to be. She had transformed from someone who desperately wanted to belong to someone who helped others create their own definitions of belonging. The girl who had been deemed too different for family photos had become the woman that everyone wanted to be in selfies with. But more importantly, she had become someone who used her influence to make the world a little bit kinder, a little bit more accepting, and a little bit more authentic. Maya Rodriguez had found her place in the world not by changing who she was, but by showing the world that being different was actually the key to making a difference. And in doing so, she had created a legacy that would inspire misfits and outsiders for generations to come. The family that had once excluded her from their photos now competed for space in her selfies. But Maya had learned that the only approval that truly mattered was her own. And that was something no one could ever take away from her. The years following Maya's commencement speech marked a period of unprecedented growth and influence. At 28, she had become more than just a social media personality. She was a cultural force, a voice for authenticity in an increasingly performative world. Her media company, Misfit Media, had expanded into a multimedia empire that included streaming shows, podcasts, books, and even a lifestyle brand. But success at this level brought challenges Maya had never anticipated. The pressure of being a role model for millions of people was immense, and the scrutiny of her every move was relentless. Every decision was analyzed, every relationship dissected, every mistake magnified. The first major controversy came when Maya was photographed at a high-end restaurant with tech billionaire Marcus Chen, sparking rumors about a romantic relationship. The internet exploded with speculation, and suddenly Maya found herself defending her right to privacy while maintaining her commitment to authenticity. "I've always been open about my life," Maya said during an emergency livestream to address the rumors. "But being authentic doesn't mean I have to share every detail of my personal relationships. You can be genuine while still maintaining boundaries." The response to her statement was mixed. Some fans appreciated her honesty about needing privacy, while others felt betrayed by what they perceived as secrecy. Maya realized she was navigating uncharted territory, how to remain authentic while protecting her personal life from public consumption. The situation was complicated by her family's newfound interest in her romantic life. Her aunt Carmen, who had spent years criticizing Maya's choices, now offered unsolicited advice about her relationships, and even suggested setting her up with suitable partners. "Maya, you're at the age where you should be thinking about settling down," Carmen said during a family dinner. "You've proven yourself professionally. Now you need to focus on building a family." "I am building a family," Maya replied. "I've created a community of millions of people who support each other. I've built a business that employs dozens of people. I've established a foundation that helps young people find their voices. That's my family." The conversation highlighted the ongoing tension between Maya's chosen family of supporters and collaborators and her biological family, who still sometimes struggled to understand her values and priorities. Maya's relationship with Marcus Chen did develop into something significant, though she was careful to keep it largely private. Marcus, who had built his own tech empire after being underestimated early in his career, understood the pressures of public success and the importance of maintaining authenticity. "I love that you refuse to perform your life for other people," Marcus told Maya during one of their quiet dinners at home. "You're successful because you're real, not because you're perfect." Their relationship provided Maya with a partner who understood the unique challenges of building a platform based on authenticity. Marcus had his own story of being dismissed and underestimated, and he appreciated Maya's commitment to helping others who felt like outsiders. Meanwhile, Maya's business continued to expand in unexpected directions. She launched a line of inclusive clothing designed for people who didn't fit conventional beauty standards, partnered with mental health organizations to create content about self-acceptance, and even began developing a scripted television series about a young woman navigating family rejection. The clothing line, called Misfit Threads, became particularly successful because it addressed a real need in the market. Maya had spent years hearing from followers who struggled to find clothes that made them feel confident and authentic, and she used her platform to create solutions. "Fashion should make you feel more like yourself, not less," Maya explained during the line's launch event. "We're creating clothes for people who don't fit standard sizes or conventional aesthetics. Everyone deserves to feel beautiful and confident in their own skin." The success of Misfit Threads led to partnerships with major retailers and expansion into international markets. Maya was building not just a media empire but a lifestyle brand that celebrated individuality and authenticity. But with greater success came greater responsibility. Maya found herself fielding requests for endorsements, partnerships, and collaborations that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. She was invited to join corporate boards, advise political campaigns, and even consider running for office herself. "Maya, you have a platform that most politicians would kill for," said Jennifer Walsh, a political strategist who had reached out about a potential Senate run. "You could actually change policy, not just influence culture." The idea was tempting, but Maya ultimately decided that her impact was greatest when she remained independent of traditional political structures. She could speak more freely, support causes across party lines, and maintain the authenticity that had made her successful. "I'm more useful as an outside voice," she told Jennifer. "The moment I become part of the political establishment, I lose some of my credibility with the people who need to hear my message most." Instead, Maya used her platform to advocate for issues she cared about: mental health awareness, anti-bullying initiatives, and support for young entrepreneurs. She testified before Congress about the impact of social media on young people's self-esteem, and worked with legislators to develop policies that would protect vulnerable users. The congressional testimony was a full-circle moment for Maya. She sat in the same chamber, where she had once watched politicians debate issues that felt distant from her life. Now speaking as an expert on authenticity and digital culture. Honorable members of Congress, Maya began, I stand before you today not as a social media influencer or a business owner, but as someone who has experienced firsthand the power of authentic connection in a digital world. We have a responsibility to protect young people from the harmful effects of performative culture while preserving the positive aspects of online community. Her testimony was widely praised and led to several policy changes around social media regulation and mental health resources for young people. Maya had evolved from someone who used social media to express her authentic self to someone who was helping shape how society used these platforms. As Maya's influence grew, so did the complexity of her relationship with her family. The documentary's success had brought renewed attention to their dynamics, and family members found themselves dealing with public scrutiny of their past behavior. Her cousin Sophia, who had been largely silent during Maya's exclusion from family events, reached out with a heartfelt apology that surprised everyone. Maya, I need to talk to you about something that's been eating at me for years, Sophia said during a private conversation. I was a coward when we were teenagers. I watched you get excluded and hurt, and I said nothing because I was afraid of being rejected myself. I'm ashamed of that person I was. Sophia, we were kids, Maya replied, though she appreciated the apology. We all made mistakes. But that's not an excuse. I should have stood up for you. I should have recognized how talented and special you were. I'm sorry it took your success for me to find the courage to say this. Similar conversations happened with other family members as they grappled with their own roles in Maya's early experiences. Some, like Sophia, offered genuine apologies and worked to build better relationships. Others, like her uncle Roberto, remained defensive and struggled to acknowledge their past behavior. The most complex relationship remained with her Aunt Carmen, who had raised Maya but had also been the source of some of her deepest wounds. Carmen's attempts to rewrite history and claim credit for Maya's success were ongoing sources of tension. Carmen, I appreciate that you're proud of me now, Maya said during a family therapy session they had agreed to attend together. But I need you to acknowledge that you didn't always support my dreams. You actively discouraged my creativity and made me feel like I didn't belong in this family. I was trying to protect you, Carmen replied. I thought if you could just fit in better, you'd be happier. I didn't understand that being different was actually your strength. But that's the problem. You assumed that being different was a weakness. You never considered that maybe the family needed to change, not me. The therapy sessions were difficult but necessary. They helped Maya and Carmen develop a more honest relationship based on acknowledgement of past hurts and commitment to future growth. Maya's personal healing journey became another source of content and connection with her audience. She was open about attending therapy, working through family trauma, and learning to set healthy boundaries. Healing isn't linear, she shared in a vulnerable video that resonated with millions of viewers. Some days I feel confident and empowered. Other days I still hear that 17-year-old girl who was told she didn't belong. The difference is that now I know those voices are liars. The video sparked important conversations about mental health, family trauma, and the ongoing work of self-acceptance. Maya's willingness to share her struggles made her even more relatable and trustworthy to her audience. As Maya approached her 30th birthday, she reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. She was now running a company valued at over $50 million, had written 2 best-selling books, and had been featured on the covers of major magazines. But more importantly, she had created a movement that celebrated authenticity and helped millions of people feel less alone. The birthday celebration itself was a testament to how far she had come. Instead of a typical celebrity party, Maya organized a weekend retreat for young people who had been supported by her foundation. The event combined celebration with service, featuring workshops on entrepreneurship, mental health, and creative expression. This is how I want to mark this milestone, Maya told the assembled group of scholarship recipients, mentees, and supporters. Not with expensive champagne and designer clothes, but with the people who remind me why I do this work. You are my greatest achievement. The retreat was filmed for a documentary special that aired on Maya's streaming platform, showing the real-world impact of her foundation's work. Viewers met scholarship recipients who had started their own businesses, young people who had found their voices through Maya's mentorship, and families who had learned to celebrate their differences. One particularly moving segment featured Maria Santos, a 17-year-old who had been excluded from her family's celebrations because of her sexuality. Maya had personally mentored Maria, helping her develop confidence and eventually reconcile with her family. "Maya showed me that I don't need to change who I am to earn love," Maria said during the documentary. "She helped me understand that the right people will love me for who I am, not despite it." The documentary special reinforced Maya's reputation as someone who practiced what she preached. She wasn't just talking about authenticity and inclusion. She was actively creating opportunities for others to experience both. As Maya's business empire continued to grow, she faced new challenges around scaling her message and maintaining quality control. Misfit Media was producing content for multiple platforms, managing dozens of employees, and overseeing international expansion. "We're at a crossroads," Maya told her executive team during a strategic planning session. "We can continue growing rapidly, or we can focus on deepening our impact. I think we need to be more intentional about choosing quality over quantity." The decision to prioritize depth over breadth led to some difficult choices. Maya turned down lucrative partnerships that didn't align with her values, canceled projects that felt inauthentic, and restructured her company to focus on fewer, higher-quality initiatives. "I'd rather reach fewer people with a message that genuinely changes their lives than reach millions with content that's just entertainment," she explained to her investors, some of whom were concerned about leaving money on the table. The strategy proved successful. Maya's content became more impactful and her audience became more engaged. The Foundation's programs became more effective, and the business became more sustainable. One of the most significant developments was Maya's decision to expand her foundation's work internationally. She had been receiving messages from young people around the world who felt like outsiders in their own cultures, and she wanted to create programming that addressed their needs. "Feeling like a misfit isn't uniquely American," Maya explained during a board meeting. "Young people everywhere are struggling with family expectations, cultural pressures, and the desire to be authentic. We have an opportunity to create global impact." The international expansion began with pilot programs in Canada, the UK, and Australia, English-speaking countries where Maya's message could translate easily. The success of these programs led to expansion into non-English-speaking markets, with culturally adapted content and local partnerships. Maya's first international speaking tour took her to 12 countries over 6 weeks. At each stop, she met with local young people, learned about their unique challenges, and adapted her message to address their specific needs. "The details are different, but the core experience is universal," Maya observed during a stop in London. "Young people everywhere are struggling to balance authenticity with belonging, individual expression with family expectations. My job is to help them see that they don't have to choose between being themselves and being loved." The tour generated significant media coverage and helped establish Maya as a global voice for authenticity and self-acceptance. Her TED Talk from the tour, delivered in Amsterdam, became one of the most watched talks of the year. But international success also brought new scrutiny and criticism. Some accused Maya of cultural imperialism, arguing that her American-centric message about individualism didn't translate to more collectivist cultures. Others questioned whether her privileged position as a successful entrepreneur made her out of touch with the struggles of ordinary young people. Maya took these criticisms seriously and used them to refine her approach. She began partnering with local organizations and cultural experts to ensure her message was culturally appropriate and relevant. "I'm not trying to export American values," she clarified during a press conference in Tokyo. "I'm trying to support universal human needs, the need to be seen, accepted, and valued for who we are. How that looks in practice may vary by culture, but the fundamental need remains the same." The learning process was humbling but valuable. Maya discovered that her message resonated across cultures when it was presented with cultural sensitivity and local context. She also learned that her own story of family rejection and eventual acceptance had parallels in many different cultural contexts. One of the most meaningful international connections came when Maya met Priya Sharma, a young woman in Mumbai who had been excluded from her family because she chose to pursue art instead of engineering. Priya had followed Maya's content for years and credited it with giving her the courage to pursue her dreams despite family opposition. "Your story taught me that families can be wrong about their children," Priya told Maya during their meeting. "I thought I was failing my family by being different. You helped me understand that I was actually being true to myself." Priya's story reminded Maya why she had started her journey in the first place. It wasn't about building a business empire or achieving celebrity status. It was about helping people feel less alone in their struggles and more confident in their authenticity. As Maya's influence grew, she began to attract attention from unexpected quarters. World leaders sought her advice on youth engagement, major corporations wanted to partner with her on inclusion initiatives, and academic institutions offered her honorary degrees and visiting professorships. Maya represents something that traditional institutions have struggled to understand, explained Dr. James Wilson, a sociologist who had studied Maya's impact. She's created authentic connection in a digital age, built trust through vulnerability, and demonstrated that commercial success and social impact can go hand in hand. The academic recognition was particularly meaningful to Maya, who had sometimes felt insecure about her lack of traditional credentials. When Harvard Business School offered her a visiting professorship to teach a course on authentic leadership, she saw it as validation of her unconventional path to expertise. "I never thought I'd be teaching at Harvard," Maya told her students during her first lecture. "I don't have an MBA or a PhD. What I have is experience building authentic relationships with millions of people, and sometimes that's more valuable than theoretical knowledge." The course, called Authentic Leadership in the Digital Age, became one of the most popular offerings at the business school. Students appreciated Maya's practical approach to leadership and her willingness to share both successes and failures. But perhaps the most significant development in Maya's life was her decision to start a family with Marcus. The couple had been together for 3 years, and their relationship had deepened into something that felt permanent and meaningful. "I want our children to grow up in a world where being different is celebrated, not punished," Maya told Marcus as they discussed their future. "I want them to know that they're loved unconditionally, not just when they meet other people's expectations." The pregnancy announcement was handled with characteristic authenticity. Instead of a polished social media post, Maya shared the news during a live stream, explaining her hopes and fears about becoming a mother. "I'm excited and terrified," she admitted to her audience. "I'm excited about the opportunity to raise a child who feels loved and accepted for who they are. I'm terrified about protecting them from the kind of rejection I experienced. But I think those fears will make me a better parent." The response from her audience was overwhelmingly positive. Many followers shared their own experiences with family planning, parenting challenges, and hopes for their children. Maya's pregnancy became another opportunity to build authentic connection with her community. As Maya prepared for motherhood, she also prepared for the next phase of her career. She was planning to scale back her travel schedule and focus more on content creation and strategic leadership of her various ventures. "I want to be present for my child in ways that my own parents weren't always able to be present for me," she explained to her team. "That means being more selective about commitments and more intentional about how I spend my time." The pregnancy also provided an opportunity for healing with her family. Her aunt Carmen, despite their complicated history, was excited about becoming a great aunt and offered to help with childcare. "Maya, I know I wasn't perfect when you were growing up," Carmen said during a family gathering, "but I want to be better for your child. I want to be the kind of family member who celebrates their uniqueness instead of trying to change them." The conversation marked a significant shift in their relationship. Carmen was finally acknowledging her past mistakes and committing to doing better in the future. Maya's pregnancy journey was documented authentically, including the challenges and complications that arose. When she developed gestational diabetes, she shared the experience with her audience, using it as an opportunity to discuss health, body image, and the pressure on pregnant women to be perfect. "Pregnancy is not a performance," she said during a particularly vulnerable video. "It's a medical condition that affects everyone differently. I'm not going to pretend everything is perfect just to maintain some image of having it all together." The honesty about her pregnancy challenges resonated with millions of women who had faced similar struggles. Maya's refusal to romanticize motherhood or present a perfect image made her even more relatable and trustworthy. When daughter Elena was born, Maya took a 3-month break from social media to focus on bonding with her child and adjusting to motherhood. The decision was controversial among some business advisors who worried about losing audience engagement, but Maya prioritized her family over her platform. "I've spent years teaching people about authenticity and self-acceptance," Maya told critics. "The most authentic thing I can do right now is be present for my daughter. My audience will understand because they know I practice what I preach." The break from social media gave Maya perspective on how much her life had changed. She was no longer the excluded teenager desperate for acceptance. She was a successful entrepreneur, a loving partner, and now a mother who was determined to break cycles of conditional love and acceptance. When Maya returned to social media, she brought new insights about parenting, identity, and the challenges of raising children in a digital age. Her content became more nuanced and thoughtful, reflecting her growth as both a person and a public figure. "Becoming a mother has changed how I think about my message," she explained during her return announcement. "I'm not just trying to help people feel better about themselves, I'm trying to help create a world where the next generation doesn't have to overcome the same rejections and exclusions we faced." The evolution of Maya's message reflected her own maturation and the deepening of her understanding about family, belonging, and authenticity. She was no longer just the outsider who had proven her critics wrong. She was a leader working to create systemic change in how society treats people who are different. As Elena grew, Maya was careful to document her parenting journey authentically, including the challenges and uncertainties that came with raising a child in the public eye. She shared her struggles with work-life balance, her fears about protecting Elena from criticism, and her hopes for raising a confident, compassionate daughter. "I want Elena to grow up knowing that she's loved unconditionally," Maya said during one of her parenting vlogs. "I want her to feel safe being exactly who she is, whether that's artistic like me, analytical like her father, or something completely different. My job is to support her authentic self, not to shape her into some predetermined vision of who she should be." The parenting content became some of Maya's most popular and impactful work. Her authentic approach to motherhood, including acknowledgement of struggles and mistakes, helped normalize the reality of parenting while providing valuable insights and support to other parents. But Maya's influence extended far beyond social media and parenting content. She was now regularly consulted by major corporations on diversity and inclusion initiatives, served on the boards of several nonprofit organizations, and was considered a thought leader on authenticity in business and leadership. Maya has demonstrated that authenticity isn't just a personal virtue, it's a business strategy, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, a business professor who had studied Maya's impact. "She's built a multi-million-dollar empire by being consistently genuine, and that's revolutionized how we think about personal branding and leadership." The business impact of Maya's approach was evident in the companies that partnered with her. Brands that worked with Maya saw increased customer loyalty, improved employee engagement, and stronger reputations for authenticity and inclusion. But Maya was also aware of the responsibility that came with her influence. She was careful to use her platform to promote positive messages and to model healthy behaviors for her millions of followers. "I never forget that there are young people watching who might be going through the same struggles I experienced," Maya told her staff during a content planning meeting. "Every post, every video, every decision has the potential to impact someone who feels like an outsider. That's a responsibility I take seriously." As Maya approached her 35th birthday, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had transformed from an excluded teenager to a global influencer, from someone desperate for acceptance to someone who helped others find their own self-worth. The girl who had been deemed too uncohesive for a family photo was now featured on magazine covers, invited to speak at major conferences, and consulted by world leaders. But more importantly, she had created a movement that celebrated authenticity and helped millions of people feel less alone in their struggles. Maya's story was no longer just about overcoming rejection, it was about using that experience to create positive change in the world. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her exclusion into inclusion, and her difference into strength. The family that had once excluded her from their photos now competed for space in her selfies. But Maya had learned that the only approval that truly mattered was her own, and that was something no one could ever take away from her. As she looked toward the future, Maya saw endless possibilities for expanding her impact and continuing to help others find their authentic selves. She had proven that being different wasn't a liability, it was a superpower, and she was committed to helping others discover their own superpowers, one authentic connection at a time. The misfit had become the mainstream, not by changing who she was, but by showing the world that being different was actually the key to making a difference. And in that transformation, she had created a legacy that would inspire outsiders and misfits for generations to come. Maya Rodriguez had found her place in the world not by fitting in, but by standing out, and in doing so, she had changed the world's definition of what it meant to belong. 10 years had passed since Elena was born, and Maya found herself navigating territory that no guidebook had prepared her for, being a middle-aged influencer in an industry that worshipped youth. At 38, she was still incredibly successful, but she had begun to notice subtle shifts in how brands and audiences perceived her. "Maya, we love working with you, but we're looking for someone with a younger demographic," explained Jessica Park, a marketing executive at a major beauty brand. "Maybe someone in their early 20s who can connect with Gen Z?" The conversation stung more than Maya had expected. She had built her platform on authenticity and self-acceptance, but now she was facing a form of discrimination she had never encountered before: ageism in a youth-obsessed industry. "I have 15 million followers across all platforms," Maya responded, trying to keep her voice steady. "My engagement rates are higher than most influencers half my age. And I've been consistently advocating for authentic beauty standards for over a decade." "We know and we respect that," Jessica replied, "but our target demographic is 18 to 24. We need someone who speaks their language." After the meeting, Maya sat in her car and called Marcus, who was now her husband of 5 years and business partner in several ventures. "They want someone who speaks their language," Maya said, using air quotes even though Marcus couldn't see her. "As if authenticity and self-acceptance have an expiration date." "Maybe this is an opportunity," Marcus suggested. "You've always been ahead of the curve. What if you became the first influencer to successfully transition from youth-focused content to something more mature?" The idea was both terrifying and exciting. Maya had built her career on being relatable to young people who felt like outsiders, but she was no longer that insecure teenager. She was a successful businesswoman, a wife, and a mother. Her experiences and perspectives had evolved. That evening, Maya sat down with Elena, who was now 10 years old and already showing signs of the creativity and independence that ran in their family. Elena had been watching her mother's career with the keen interest of a child who had grown up in the spotlight. "Mom, why do you seem sad today?" Elena asked, looking up from her art project. "I'm not sad exactly," Maya said, choosing her words carefully. "I'm just thinking about how to stay relevant as I get older. Some people think I'm too old to connect with young people anymore." Elena frowned. "That's stupid. You help people feel better about themselves. Age doesn't matter for that." The simple wisdom of her daughter's response struck Maya deeply. Elena was right. The need for authenticity and self-acceptance didn't diminish with age. If anything, it became more complex and nuanced. That night, Maya created a video that would mark a turning point in her career. Sitting in her home office, without professional lighting or editing, she spoke directly to her camera about the challenges of aging in a youth-focused industry. "I'm 38 years old," she began. "I have laugh lines, gray hairs that I choose not to dye, and stretch marks from pregnancy. I've been told by several brands recently that I'm too old to connect with young people, that I need to step aside for someone younger." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "But here's what I've learned. Authenticity doesn't have an expiration date. The need to feel accepted and valued doesn't disappear when you turn 30 or 40 or 50. If anything, it becomes more important as you face new challenges and transitions." The video, titled "Too Old to Be Authentic," became one of her most watched and shared pieces of content. Comments poured in from followers of all ages, who had felt dismissed or invisible as they aged. "Thank you for not disappearing just because you're not 25 anymore," wrote one commenter. "I'm 42 and I still need your message about self-acceptance." "You're showing us that growing older doesn't mean becoming irrelevant," added another. "Your wisdom and experience make your message even more powerful." The response to the video led to a flood of partnership offers from brands targeting older demographics. But more importantly, it sparked a broader conversation about ageism in the influencer industry and the value of mature voices in digital media. Maya's approach to aging authentically became a case study in business schools and marketing conferences. She had successfully pivoted from being a young person's influencer to becoming a voice for people of all ages who are navigating identity, acceptance, and authenticity. Maya has demonstrated that influence isn't about being young, it's about being genuine, explained Dr. Patricia Martinez, a digital marketing professor who had studied Maya's career trajectory. She's created a template for how influencers can age gracefully while maintaining their core message and audience. The success of Maya's age-positive content opened doors to new opportunities. She was invited to speak at conferences about women's leadership, signed book deals for memoirs about navigating midlife, and launched a podcast specifically for people over 35 who were reinventing themselves. But the most significant development was Maya's decision to expand her foundation's work to include programming for adults who were navigating major life transitions. She realized that the need for support and community didn't end with adolescence. It continued throughout life. "I've been so focused on helping young people that I forgot about the adults who are also struggling with identity and belonging," Maya explained to her foundation's board. Divorce, career changes, empty nest syndrome, midlife crises. These are all times when people need support in rediscovering who they are. The Foundation's adult programming launched with workshops on career transitions, support groups for divorced individuals, and mentorship programs for people starting new ventures later in life. The response was overwhelming, with waiting lists for every program. Maya's own experience with aging also influenced her parenting approach with Elena. She was determined to model healthy aging and self-acceptance for her daughter, showing her that getting older could be empowering rather than diminishing. "I want Elena to see that women can be successful and confident at any age," Maya told Marcus during one of their regular family planning conversations. "I want her to look forward to growing up, not fear it." This philosophy extended to how Maya documented her life on social media. She shared the realities of aging, the physical changes, the shifting priorities, the wisdom that came with experience, while maintaining her characteristic honesty and humor. "I have more confidence now than I did at 25, Maya shared in one particularly popular post. "I know who I am, what I want, and what I won't tolerate." That's the gift of aging. You stop caring so much about what other people think and start caring more about what you think. The post resonated with millions of followers who were navigating their own aging journeys. Maya's willingness to embrace and celebrate getting older helped normalize the experience for others. As Elena entered her teenage years, Maya faced new challenges in balancing her public persona with her role as a mother. Elena had grown up in the spotlight, but was now at an age where she was developing her own identity and preferences about privacy. "Mom, do you have to talk about me in your videos?" Elena asked one day, with the directness that Maya had always encouraged. "I'm starting to feel weird about people knowing so much about my life." The conversation led to important discussions about consent, privacy, and the ethics of sharing family life on social media. Maya established new boundaries around what she would and wouldn't share about Elena, always prioritizing her daughter's comfort and autonomy. "Elena has the right to control her own narrative," Maya explained to her audience. "Just because I've chosen to live my life publicly doesn't mean she has to make that choice. My job is to protect her and respect her boundaries." The decision to limit Elena's presence in her content was initially challenging for Maya's brand, as family content had been popular with her audience. But it also demonstrated her commitment to practicing what she preached about respecting individual autonomy and authenticity. Elena's teenage years also brought new perspectives to Maya's work. As she watched her daughter navigate adolescence, Maya gained fresh insights into the challenges facing young people in the digital age. Elena's generation is dealing with pressures I never imagined, Maya observed during a speaking engagement about social media and youth. They're growing up with constant connectivity, comparison culture, and the pressure to perform their lives online. They need different tools and strategies than my generation did. This realization led Maya to develop new content, specifically addressing the challenges of digital natives. She interviewed teenagers about their experiences, consulted with child psychologists about healthy social media use, and created resources for parents navigating technology with their children. The work with teenagers also reconnected Maya with her original mission of helping young people feel less alone. But now she approached it with the wisdom of experience and the perspective of parenthood. I understand now that being a teenager is harder than it was when I was young, Maya said during a live stream with teen followers. You're dealing with all the normal challenges of growing up, plus the added pressure of social media, climate change, and an uncertain future. But you're also more informed, more connected, and more capable of creating change than any generation before you. Maya's ability to speak authentically to both younger and older audiences made her increasingly valuable as a bridge between generations. She was invited to facilitate conversations between parents and teenagers, helped families navigate digital boundaries, and provided insight into how different generations could learn from each other. The generational bridge work became one of Maya's most meaningful contributions. She helped parents understand their teenagers' digital lives while helping teenagers appreciate their parents' perspectives and concerns. Maya has this unique ability to speak to multiple generations without talking down to anyone, explained Dr. Robert Kim, a family therapist who had worked with Maya on several projects. She validates everyone's experiences while helping them find common ground. As Maya approached her 40th birthday, she reflected on how much her life and work had evolved. She was no longer just the excluded teenager who had proven her critics wrong. She was a mature woman who had built a legacy of authenticity and inclusion. The birthday celebration was a testament to how far she had come. Instead of a typical party, Maya organized a conference called Authenticity Across Generations, bringing together speakers from different age groups to discuss identity, belonging, and self-acceptance throughout the lifespan. 40 years ago, I was born into a world that didn't know what to do with people like me, Maya said during her keynote address. Today, I'm working to create a world where everyone can be authentic at every stage of their life. The conference was attended by thousands of people ranging from teenagers to seniors, all united by their commitment to living authentically. Maya's ability to bring together such a diverse group demonstrated the universal appeal of her message. But perhaps the most significant moment came when Maya's Aunt Carmen, now in her 70s, took the stage to speak about her own journey of growth and change. I want to apologize publicly for the way I treated Maya when she was young, Carmen said, her voice shaking with emotion. I was afraid of her differences because I didn't understand them. I tried to change her instead of celebrating her uniqueness. Maya's success and grace have taught me that it's never too late to learn and grow. The apology was decades in the making, and it represented a full-circle moment in Maya's journey. The woman who had excluded her from family photos was now publicly acknowledging her mistakes and celebrating Maya's achievements. After the conference, Maya and Carmen had a private conversation that provided closure for both of them. I've been carrying guilt about how I treated you for years, Carmen admitted. I'm so proud of who you've become, but I'm also sorry for the pain I caused along the way. Carmen, we were both doing the best we could with what we knew at the time, Maya replied. You gave me a home and raised me when my biological mother couldn't. That's not nothing. The pain I experienced also shaped me into someone who could help others facing similar struggles. The conversation represented a new chapter in their relationship, one built on mutual respect and understanding, rather than hierarchy and conditional acceptance. As Maya entered her 40s, she faced new challenges around succession planning and legacy building. Her business empire had grown to include multiple companies, and she needed to think about how to ensure continuity beyond her own involvement. I won't be doing this forever, Maya told her executive team during a strategic planning session. We need to build systems and leadership that can carry on the mission, even if I step back. The succession planning process led to interesting discussions about whether Maya's message and approach could be successfully transferred to others. Her authenticity was so personal and individual that some questioned whether it could be institutionalized. Maya's authenticity can't be replicated, observed her business partner Jessica, but the principles and practices she's developed can be taught and implemented by others. The solution involved creating a leadership development program that trained other influencers and content creators in authentic communication and community building. Maya would serve as a mentor and guide, helping others develop their own authentic voices while maintaining the core values that had made her successful. The program attracted participants from around the world, all seeking to build authentic platforms and create positive impact. Maya's role evolved from being the primary voice to being the curator and mentor of other authentic voices. I realized that my ultimate success isn't measured by my own influence, Maya explained to a journalist profiling her career. It's measured by how many other people I can help find their authentic voices and create positive change in the world. This shift in perspective marked Maya's evolution from influencer to institution builder. She was no longer just creating content. She was creating systems and structures that could perpetuate her message and impact long after she was gone. The Leadership Development Program became one of Maya's most successful initiatives, producing dozens of authentic voices who went on to build their own successful platforms and create positive change in their communities. But Maya's most important legacy remained her family. Elena, now 15, had grown into a confident, creative teenager who embodied the self-acceptance and authenticity that Maya had always advocated. "I'm proud of what you've built, Mom," Elena told Maya during one of their regular mother-daughter conversations. "But I'm even prouder of who you are as a person. You've shown me that success means being true to yourself and helping others do the same." The conversation reminded Maya that her greatest achievement wasn't her business success or public influence. It was raising a daughter who felt loved and accepted for exactly who she was. As Maya looked toward the future, she saw endless possibilities for continuing to evolve and grow. She was no longer the excluded teenager desperate for acceptance, but she hadn't forgotten that experience. Instead, she had transformed it into a lifelong mission of helping others find their own paths to authenticity and self-acceptance. The girl who had been deemed too uncohesive for a family photo had become a woman who helped millions of people create their own definitions of belonging. She had proven that being different wasn't a liability. It was a superpower that could change the world. Maya Rodriguez had found her place in the world not by fitting in, but by showing others that they didn't have to fit in either. And in that transformation, she had created a legacy that would inspire misfits and outsiders for generations to come. The family that had once excluded her from their photos now competed for space in her selfies. But Maya had learned that the only approval that truly mattered was her own, and that was something no one could ever take away from her. As she prepared for the next chapter of her life and career, Maya carried with her the lessons of her journey, that authenticity is timeless, that exclusion can become inclusion, and that being different is actually the key to making a difference. The misfit had become the mainstream, not by changing who she was, but by changing the world's definition of what it meant to belong. And in that transformation, she had proven that everyone deserves a place in the picture, especially those who had been left out before. As Maya looked toward the future, she saw endless possibilities for continuing to evolve and grow. She was no longer the excluded teenager desperate for acceptance, but she hadn't forgotten that experience. Instead, she had transformed it into a lifelong mission of helping others find their own paths to authenticity and self-acceptance. The notification on her phone interrupted her thoughts. It was a message from a young woman in Australia. "Maya, I just wanted to thank you. I was excluded from my family's Christmas photo last year because they said I didn't fit the aesthetic with my purple hair and tattoos. Your content helped me realize that their rejection said more about them than about me. I've started my own art business, and I'm happier than I've ever been. Thank you for showing me that being different is a gift, not a curse." Maya smiled as she read the message, one of thousands she received each week from people around the world who had found strength in her story. She had accomplished something she never could have imagined as that heartbroken 17-year-old. She had turned her pain into purpose, her exclusion into inclusion, and her difference into a movement. Elena walked into the room, now a confident 15-year-old who carried herself with the quiet assurance of someone who had always been loved unconditionally. "Mom, I have something to tell you," Elena said, settling into the chair across from Maya's desk. "I've been thinking about what I want to do after high school, and I want to expand the foundation's work. I want to create programs specifically for adopted kids and teens in foster care, people who feel like they don't belong anywhere." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. Her daughter had grown up watching her turn rejection into acceptance, and now Elena wanted to continue that work in her own way. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Maya said. "You understand that being different is what makes you powerful." "I learned that from watching you," Elena replied. "You turned the worst thing that happened to you into the best thing you could do for others." Their conversation was interrupted by Marcus calling from downstairs. "Maya, you need to see this." They rushed downstairs to find Marcus standing in front of the television where a news anchor was reporting on a story that made Maya's heart race. In a groundbreaking decision, the state legislature has passed the Authentic Inclusion Act, requiring schools to implement anti-bullying programs that specifically address exclusion based on individual differences. The legislation was inspired by the work of entrepreneur and activist Maya Rodriguez, whose foundation has documented the long-term effects of social exclusion on young people. Maya stared at the screen in disbelief. Her work had influenced actual policy change, creating legal protections for kids who felt like outsiders. "Mom, you did it," Elena said, hugging her tightly. "You actually changed the law." "We did it," Maya corrected, looking at her family. "This is what happens when you refuse to let rejection define you." The phone began ringing immediately with congratulations from colleagues, friends, and even family members. But the call that meant the most came from an unexpected source. Her cousin Isabella, now a mother of 3 herself. "Maya, I just saw the news about the legislation," Isabella said, her voice thick with emotion. "I need you to know something. I've been teaching my kids about what you went through, about how wrong we were to exclude you. I never want them to make someone feel the way we made you feel." "Isabella, that means everything to me," Maya replied. "Breaking the cycle is what this is all about." Later that evening, Maya sat in her home office, looking at the wall where she had hung a photo from her latest book tour. It showed her speaking to a crowd of thousands, all of them misfits and outsiders who had found their voices through her work. But next to it was an even more meaningful photo, Elena's latest art project, a collage titled "Beautiful Differences" that celebrated uniqueness in all its forms. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her Aunt Carmen. "Mija, I saw the news about the law. I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what you were building. You've done something amazing." Reading the message, Maya felt a profound sense of completion. The woman who had excluded her from family photos was now celebrating her achievements and acknowledging her impact. But more importantly, Maya no longer needed that validation. She had found her worth through her work and her contribution to the world. She opened her laptop and began typing a new post for her social media channels. 23 years ago, I was excluded from a family photo because I was told I didn't fit the family's cohesive look. Tonight, legislation inspired by my foundation's work will protect other kids from experiencing that same rejection. This is what happens when you refuse to let other people's narrow definitions determine your worth. To every misfit reading this, your differences aren't flaws to be hidden. They're gifts to be celebrated. Keep being authentically yourself. The world needs exactly what you have to offer. As she finished typing, Maya heard Elena practicing piano in the living room, a beautiful, complex piece that required both technical skill and emotional depth. The music filled the house with warmth and creativity, a perfect soundtrack to Maya's reflections on her journey. Marcus appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of tea, a nightly ritual they had maintained throughout their marriage. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, settling into the chair beside her desk. "I was just thinking about that 17-year-old girl who was so desperate to belong that she would have changed everything about herself to fit in," Maya said. "If I could go back and tell her one thing, it would be this. The rejection you're experiencing isn't a judgment on your worth. It's preparation for your purpose. She probably wouldn't have believed you, Marcus said with a gentle smile. Maybe not, but she would have needed to hear it anyway. Maya looked out the window at the city lights, each one representing a life, a story, a person who might be struggling with their own sense of belonging. Tomorrow, she would continue her work of helping them find their authentic selves. She would keep building bridges between the excluded and the included, between the different and the conventional, between pain and purpose. But tonight she was content to sit in her home, surrounded by the family she had chosen and the love she had cultivated, knowing that the girl who had been left out of one photo had become the woman who made sure no one else would ever have to feel that alone. The transformation was complete. Maya Rodriguez had found her place in the world not by fitting in, but by showing others that they didn't have to fit in either. She had turned her deepest wound into her greatest strength, her exclusion into inclusion, and her difference into a movement that would outlast her lifetime. The family that had once excluded her from their photos now competed for space in her selfies, but Maya had learned that the only approval that truly mattered was her own, and that was something no one could ever take away from her. The misfit had become the mainstream, not by changing who she was, but by changing the world's definition of what it meant to belong. And in that transformation, she had proven that everyone deserves a place in the picture, especially those who had been left out before. As Elena's piano music swelled to its crescendo, Maya closed her laptop and smiled. The girl who wasn't wanted in one family photo had become the woman everyone wanted in their selfies. But more importantly, she had become someone who made sure no one else would ever have to feel as alone as she once did. That was her greatest achievement of all, turning her pain into purpose, her exclusion into inclusion, and her difference into a legacy that would inspire misfits and outsiders for generations to come. The story had come full circle, but the impact would continue forever. The end.